Well, welcome to part 2 of Greg's sourdough bread. Today we're going to take the starter that we bulked up yesterday and we're going to form the dough and stretch the dough so that it will rise nicely, it'll have a nice crumb, and it'll be ready to cook tomorrow. So we continue with the same proportion of flour to water as we did yesterday when we bulked up our starter. But today we're going to add a bit more flour, 4 cups of flour, loosely packed, 2, 3, 4. I don't try to cut it off or try to measure it too precisely because that process is going to be done by just looking at the dough and learning how the dough should feel to be of the proper consistency. Then to the 4 cups of flour we add 2 cups of water, 1 heaping tablespoon of salt, as much salt as you can put on a tablespoon. Sprinkle that on. And then we take our starter that we bulked up yesterday and we put the entire content of the starter into our dough. There we go. That has a really nice smell. And now I'm going to work the water, salt, starter, and flour together to form a nice ball. You can see it beginning here. The flour will be along the outside edge. It'll be more wet in the center. And I just keep working it and working it. Try to form it into a rough ball. And you see how the flour and water is standing up? That's how you want it. That's about the right consistency. If it's too slack and it's laying down in the bowl, that's too watery, add more flour. If you can't mix it up, it's too stiff, you don't have enough water, add another tablespoon of water. And add your water a tablespoon at a time, not more than that. You'll see how quickly it goes from too stiff to too slack. Okay, this isn't looking too bad. I don't want any dry flour though. I want to have it all incorporated. And you'll notice too as you work it that it begins to pick up everything on the side of the container. That's telling you that you've got a nice consistency and the ball is just about how we want it. Then we're going to take this cover it and let it stand for about a half an hour. Just like that. It'll rest there for a half an hour, from which time the dough will go from this look that you see here to a more silky look, which I mixed up some batter, some dough, just before we did this one so that you could see what it looks like as it begins to form up. This one's a little bit slack, so I'm going to take just a little bit of flour, work it in here, and I'm going to stretch this dough. The stretching sets the gluten in the dough. It causes the bread to have a nice fine crumb. If you want a very loose crumb, big open holes, air holes, more like like a Pioneer bread, then let it be a little watery. The warning is that if it's watery, it's hard to handle on day 3 when we put it into the oven. So now I'm going to stretch this for you. You'll see what it looks like. First thing I do is wet my hand. a wet hand keeps the batter, the dough, from sticking to it. And if you can see what I have here now, this is beginning to look, instead of crumbly, it looks very kind of what I call silky. And now I'm going to stretch it, pull it, not break it, stretch it, I turn it a little bit, I want some more flour on my hand, stretch it, I turn it, I pull it, just like that, a little more flour. Now there's no substitute for experience. As you do this, you'll figure out how to make the flour and the water cooperate and form a really nice dough. You can see now how it's forming up. This is pretty happy. And notice that I'm just adding a little bit of flour, kind of hand by hand as I go until it feels about right. Looks nice. It's nice and soaky. And this is ready to be covered and stand for 24 hours. It'll about double in size. It'll fill this bowl almost to the top. You'll see tomorrow. So it's covered. It's ready to go. This is the dough we just made. You can see the difference in the look. It's a more fresh dough, and we'll see if we can stretch this one out, and you'll get a good sense of how to do this. This one's a little more stiff, but still you see how it pulls. We pull, we turn it back on itself, we turn the bowl, collect the dough, stretch it, turn it back on itself, just like that. That looks pretty good. Make that just a little easier to handle with a little more flour. Right. Now, tomorrow we're going to bake. In order to bake, you're going to want a 6 or 8 quart Dutch oven or enamel Dutch oven. Either of those will work, and then we'll see you then.